Good morning, everybody. It is Mr. Taylor, and today is Tuesday, April 14th. It is sunny outside, which is a nice change after yesterday's deluge of rain. Um, Couple things. Looking at the week that is, number one, on Monday, I had hosted the Google Class live meets for all 6 classes, and some of the classes had very few people in it. I was a little disappointed on that. It's important that you check in if at all possible. I heard people say, "Well, it was too early. 9:30 in the morning is not that early when you would be at school normally at 7:30 in the morning." So this is where like responsibility and routine kicks in a little bit, that you have to make sure that you are being responsible enough to not be up all night, and not let that interfere with your schoolwork and your studies. Um, so please, next Monday, make sure that you're logging in and that you're finding the Google Meets. I'm going to be taking attendance in the meets just to see who's there and who's not. And I'm also going to give out bonus points for people that are in the meets, and are participating. All right. So, other things. The administration has said that looking forward, we should be teaching new material in the fourth quarter. I've been talking with the eighth grade social studies teacher, and looking at what you really need to know in order to be ready for eighth grade in the fall. And I'm going to roll out lessons starting next week that are going to help to get us to that point of being ready for eighth grade. What's that going to look like? Some of that's going to be Google Slides and questions. Some of it may be videos. I'll record some lessons, hitting the high points of things and overviews, and have you respond to some of that as well. Probably I'll assign 3 assignments on Monday and have them due on Friday. So it'll give you the whole week to ask questions if you need to ask questions or clarifications, as well as to take your time getting these things done. I don't want it to be an overwhelming, I don't want it to be a burden, but I do need to make sure that it's going to get done, because ultimately you're going to be responsible for material to get you ready for eighth grade, which is where you're all going to be hopefully come September. Things that we have to cover now. So we ended our time in class. I think we were at the we're at the Industrial Revolution, looking at how factories were changing, changing the way that Americans were working, the things that they were able to buy, the technology, and the impact that that was all going to have. So we're going to finish up with the Industrial Revolution and then look at how that impacts westward expansion, as we start moving from the Atlantic Ocean all the way to the Mississippi River, and then eventually to the Pacific Ocean, California, filling in the whole country, building trains back and forth across the country, connecting all the pieces, people moving back and forth. So as we look at westward expansion, that's also going to bring in the idea of conflict of ideas, people in the north that are going to see things in a certain way, industries and cities, and then people in the South that are still relying very much on cash crop agriculture, slavery in the South versus paid workers in the North, and eventually how those two are going to come together and create conflict. So as we're looking at the change in the dynamic of America, and the increasing conflict and tension, which will eventually bring us into the American Civil War, which is the big blow up where our country is torn apart between the slavery in the South and the anti-slavery and industry that's in the North, and how we're 2 separate countries, really, that are going to fight this bloody conflict. That's where we end for the year, and then you pick up at the end of that in eighth grade. So we do have some work to get doing, but don't fret about it. We'll be able to get through it, no problem. One of the things that I had heard yesterday in comments and things was that some of you didn't understand where the links were. Google Meet had changed the way that we were setting up our meetings. You asked, well, if I had last week's Meet, why doesn't it work for this week? I can't find the codes. So let me take a minute and kind of show you those things and clarify a little bit. So we'll jump in here with Mr. Taylor's social distancing class, social distancing studies here, and we will look at our Google Classroom. Google Classroom has changed a little bit. On days when you have a meet, there'll be a link here in the front of your classroom, and this meeting code is here, and it's also here on the classwork screen. So you'll see right up here, there's a meet button, and when you see that meet button, you can click on it here, or you can click on it here in the stream, and it'll show up, and it'll take you right to whatever the meet is that you want to join. So it's easier than me trying to send out codes to everybody. It'll be right there, and it's only there when the meet is going to be active. So I click and I set it up, and I put it there for you. Again, go in your to-do, in the classes that you are enrolled in, you go to do, and it'll show you the work that you have to be doing, the due dates and things like that, so you can keep on top of your work. Okay. Lastly, just a couple things that were going on in the world yesterday. The governor of New York, Andrew Cuomo, and the president of the United States, Donald Trump, are kind of getting in a butting of heads over who gets to control the end of, or the reopening of America afterwards, whether it's the governors of each state making these decisions, or whether it's the president of the United States making decisions kind of for everybody. So it's an interesting dynamic and a developing story that you may want to be writing about in your Eyewitness to History account. Again, you should be working on that all week, and when it's done, please turn it in and submit it. For today, that's about it. Hopefully this video works better than the last one I did, which I have to go take down out of the classroom because there was no volume on it. So as always, do your part in social distancing. Please stay 6 feet away from each other. Cover your faces with a mask when you go out into public. Don't touch your face and your eyes and your nose and your mouth. Do your bit to keep this pandemic from getting any worse, because it looks like we're sort of at the top. And if we all do our part, it can go down now. But if we don't do our part and we start, it'll get worse, and we don't want that to happen. All right, so be good, stay safe, and I will talk to you all tomorrow.